Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tending to Change. I'm your host, Jenny Juarez. In this cultural moment in time, I'm finding myself acutely aware of the intersection of human emotions, needs, and relationships. Because unless we're in deep denial, and therefore probably not listening to a podcast called Tending to Change, we're feeling the effects of our collective beliefs, intentions, and behaviors right now. Regardless of where we live on the planet or how deeply it's impacting our personal lives, at least for right now, it's unsettling. I know through conversations and experience that many familial, friendly, professional, and even romantic relationships are undergoing profound shifts. Some are even breaking apart. We're reckoning with long-standing wounds, unmet needs, and unshared values, all compounded by the lack of sufficient communication skills and self-awareness. And this has caused a lot of discomfort and ungroundedness for many of us. We're being confronted with a lot of emotions that we might not yet have the safety or tools to process. And this overwhelm can lead us to either fear our emotions and repress them, or let them rip with abandon and not caring one bit about the damage they might cause. We might also find ourselves ignoring our own needs or ignoring the needs of others. And we might be leaning heavily on judgment and blame of the quote-unquote other instead of seeking deeper understanding. And I get it. We might find a temporary sense of security through expressing self-righteousness. But it's going to come at the detriment of nourishing healthy, intimate relationships, because those require authenticity, vulnerability, and curiosity. Worse yet, so many of us currently lack the capacity to shift our perspectives out of the limited ego consciousness, which always feels victimized by life and vindicated by self-centered action. We tend to get stuck in our feeling states, such as grief or rage or fear, and we co-opt them as part of our identity. I say this because I'm intimately familiar with these tendencies in myself. And also, thanks to the grace of an expanded perspective, I know that this doesn't have to be the end of our story. Each of us is capable of cultivating more awareness and broadening and clarifying our perspective. It just takes practice and intention. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Reframing emotions as information instead of our identity. And I'm going to start with a personal story of my own realization. My grandmothers died within 5 weeks of each other. The grandmother I was most close to, Elaine, died on December 10th of 2014. And my Florida grandmother, Abby, died on January 15 of the following year. For many reasons, this was deeply painful emotionally. Death on its own stirs the ache of grief due to the loss. But I was super close to and connected with my grandma, Elaine. I even named my first child after her. And compounding the ache, she died just 5 days before my younger daughter's 5th birthday, and a mere 15 days before Christmas. It was very hard to get through that month. I spent most of it splitting my time between working as an assistant store manager in an intense retail setting and hiding in my bedroom, crying and numbing out with alcohol and sugar. I felt consumed by my grief and depression. So when my grandma Abby, my last living grandparent, died just 5 days after my oldest daughter's birthday a few weeks later, I was a shell of my former self. But I'll never forget the moment when the airplane that was carrying me and my sister to be with our mom in Florida took off the runway. As the nose of the plane pierced through the clouds on that incredibly dreary, gray, bitterly cold January morning, I was overcome by the contrast. Below me was an ever-shrinking landscape of white snow and gray slush. Cars and people were milling all about. And as we ascended beyond the blanket of clouds, I was stunned by a brilliant blue sky and a radiant sun shining in all directions. And I kind of laughed to myself thinking, wow, the sun really is always shining whether we can see it or not. You see, to live in Michigan is to have deep gratitude for sunshine. Climate change aside, most years we can anticipate darkness beginning about 5:30 in the evening once daylight savings ends. And for the most part, it's some combination of rain, snow, and clouds from about October to April. Living here, we don't take warm weather for granted. And we pack an entire year's worth of adventure and celebration into the 4 or 5 months of really good weather that we get in the summertime. So forgive me if it seems absurd to forget that the sun is always shining. But frankly, on that January day, it was quite unexpected. And it reminds me of a quote from American Tibetan Buddhist nun Pema Chodron when she said, "You are the sky. Everything else is just the weather." This very condensed Buddhist teaching guides us in our understanding that our consciousness, our awareness, is the sky. It's expansive, pure, and all-encompassing. It's spacious, and it holds all the myriad of experiences of our lives. By contrast, we can regard our thoughts, emotions, and bodily sensations as the weather. Sometimes we experience a bright sunny day. Sometimes it's more like a torrential downpour or a hurricane ripping through. And sometimes it's blizzard-like, a heavy, weighted blanket cast across everything. And it's very easy for us to become identified with the weather. But you are the sky. Just as the blue sky is always there behind the clouds and storms, so are you. We are bigger than our past, our circumstances, and our experiences. Do you remember what I said to you in the last podcast episode? Depression, anxiety, and despair are all very normal, natural experiences for human beings. We all feel that way sometimes. But you don't have to set up a tent and live there. You don't have to identify with these emotions and make them a part of your personality. You don't have to commit to them like a method actor for the rest of your life. But then, what value do our emotions hold? And why would we want to feel them instead of push them away? This teaching first came to my awareness through reading a book by meditation teacher and nonviolent communication trainer Oren J. Sofer. His book, Say What You Mean, is chock full of profound yet practical wisdom. But what really caught my eye were two charts that he reprinted from the Bay Area Center for Nonviolent Communication. And you can find links to these charts in the show notes for the episode. The first list is one of basic, universal human needs. Things like food, water, shelter, trust, autonomy, belonging, play, and meaning. And the other list was of universal human feelings or emotions, further subdivided into pleasant and unpleasant feelings. And the thrust of the teaching was this, that we all have certain needs to thrive and have a fulfilling life. And when those needs are being met, we experience positive feeling states. And when those feelings are not being met, we experience negative feeling states. And this was a profound teaching for me because it reframed emotions, not as these psychosomatic experiences whipping me around relentlessly, but as information. So last week, when I said that your rage and your fear are messengers, that they're telling you that something isn't okay and it needs to be addressed, this is what I was talking about. Our emotions provide information about our inner and our outer environment, about our relationships, and about our needs. This section of Oren's book came into my life at a very poignant time. We were in the midst of the pandemic, and I was fighting a lot with my parents. I was going through therapy and trying to work through some childhood trauma that I hadn't resolved. And I knew that it was an important next step for me to feel my feelings and become curious about them and investigate them. But there was a part of me that was terrified to do it. I feared that if I let myself feel the full extent of my grief or my rage or my sorrow, that I would become lost in them and that I would never reemerge. And it was very scary. I was very intimidated. But with the support of my therapist, I decided to go there. And because I love to learn, I decided to take these lists of universal human needs and universal human feelings and create a wall of wisdom on my dining room wall. I used brightly colored pieces of paper, creating a strip of paper for each word and taping it to the wall. And for an entire year, multiple times a day, I would look at that wall, and it would give me a chance to reflect. What emotions am I feeling right now? What information does this give me about whether my needs are being met and which needs might require some attention? This opened up beautiful conversations with my husband, my children, our friends, and even strangers who would visit our house and be struck by this giant wall of words. It became quite the conversation piece, and I would say that we all learned something from that wall. You see, emotions are ephemeral. They are a form of energy that is felt in the body. Think of emotion as energy in motion. We want to move them through, meaning allow them safe expression, because otherwise they can get trapped in the body and manifest as muscle tightness or growths or other forms of dis-ease. Emotions are similar to thoughts because each one has a birth, a life, and a death. They often only continue as long as we reinforce them with thoughts, especially identifying thoughts. For example, saying I am angry versus I'm feeling or experiencing anger. In fact, emotions are very intimately connected with our thoughts. Sometimes an emotion triggers a familiar thought stream, or a thought can trigger an emotional response. We tend to fear certain emotional states, often because we didn't feel safe to express them in our youth, or perhaps we still don't feel safe to express them. As I said before, I also used to have this fear of my emotions and whether or not I'd be able to recover from them. But through my own experiences, I can report with confidence that this is not the case, especially if you have a trusted friend or therapist or some form of safe container to hold them. You can access even powerful or intense emotions, or old and stuck ones. And if done gently, patiently, with the proper tools and resources, they will not take you down forever. I finally discovered the truth of what my teacher and old boss Carol would often say with regard to big emotions. You have to feel it to heal it. So, what emotions have been tugging at your awareness lately? And what is your current capacity to identify with the sky instead of the weather? Can you hold it? Can you hold the emotions like the sky holds space for the clouds and the sun and the lightning and the rain? What information can be gleaned from what you're feeling right now? And what is it telling you about your needs? I'd like to end today with a different kind of practice. I'm actually going to read a short story to you that I wrote when a dear friend of mine gave me a writing prompt. I promise it relates to the topic. The prompt was confronting the monster you've spent many long years hunting, except they're not exactly what you thought they'd be. So, treating this listening exercise as a practice, finding a comfortable seat, alert and yet relaxed, perhaps with the eyes closed, if you can avoid falling to sleep, listening mindfully to the telling of this story. When asked about their most fearsome monsters, the majority of people would probably recount terrifying creatures from a long-remembered horror movie or a childhood spooky story told around a campfire. They may even describe some despicable, murderous human being whose story gets told on some world's scariest serial killer TV show. But not me. The monsters that scare me the most have no form. And yet, they have the power to wake me out of a dead sleep. They have the power to keep me in a terror all night. They can destroy my most treasured relationships and even prevent me from living a meaningful life. These monsters lurk within the caverns of my psyche, waiting for my most vulnerable moments. Usually, I'm helpless against them, but not today. Today, I'm going monster hunting. The sounds of bird song and glimmers of sunlight dance across the room, waking me from a deep sleep. Why is it so light out, I wonder? I glance over at my phone to check the time as a yawn escapes me. Shit! I overslept, I yell. Within fractions of a second, my breath is stolen as if all the oxygen has been sucked from the room. My mind and heart begin to race as I realize that I'm running late. Pupils dilated, I throw the covers off of me and frantically toss around the pile of clothes sitting in the laundry basket next to my bed. I shimmy into a pair of jeans and slip a wrinkled t-shirt over my head before haphazardly running a brush through my hair. Within minutes, I'm keys in hand, jumping into my car. My heart is still throbbing in my chest as I turn onto the highway. Nothing like a panic attack to start the morning, I mutter to myself as I weave in and out of traffic, going a good 15 miles per hour over the speed limit. All I can think about is how I'm supposed to be downtown in 5 minutes for a class that I've never been to before. I grip the steering wheel, begging the universe to clear my path. No sooner than my prayer leaves my lips does a man in a black Dodge Charger bolt in front of me, cutting me off and nearly causing me to lose control of my shitty old Subaru. Motherfucker, I yell as I desperately regain control of the wheel. You stupid piece of shit, watch where you're fucking going. Suddenly, I feel hot all over, red hot. My fists and jaw are clenched as I imagine running that stupid fucking Charger off the road. I hit the gas and speed up to get next to him, eyes narrowed with rage, and I wave my middle finger at him. The driver returns the gesture and zips off ahead, completely unbothered by my dramatic maneuvering. Ugh, fuck him, I think as I take my exit, face still flush with pulsating blood. I'm already 10 minutes late for class, and I'm beginning to search for a parking spot near the building. All the spots nearby are taken, so I give up and drive a few blocks away to a slightly more run-down area of downtown. I find a place to park in front of an old abandoned building covered in graffiti, and I scoop up my bag onto my shoulder as I rush toward the trash-strewn sidewalk. As I make my way down the unfamiliar block, a prickly shiver runs up my spine. Is someone following me, I ask, attempting to steal glances behind me without looking obvious. A lump forms in my throat as my neck tenses, and I reach for my phone in my bag. After tapping on the screen a few times, I hold the phone up to my ear, pretending to have a conversation with someone. Why do I think this would deter someone from attacking me? I don't know, but it's still my go-to move when I'm afraid. That and the car key that I'm gripping tightly between the pointer and middle fingers of my opposite hand. Yeah, like I'm really going to stab someone with my ignition key, I think, as I roll my eyes. Finally, I arrive at the building where the class is being held. I try to slip past the door without making any noise, but it doesn't matter. As soon as I walk in, 45 sets of eyes turn to look at me from their meditation cushions. It's completely silent. The teacher seated at the front of the room was just about to lead them in a guided meditation before I walked in, and now they're all waiting on me. I feel the blood drain from my face as my entire body oozes a clammy sweat. I'm shaking now, horrified as I imagine how I must look. Messy hair and no makeup, wearing a wrinkled, grease-stained t-shirt and jeans that barely contain my fluffy belly, and yet they cover my legs plus 2 inches in length. My 3-year-old Birkenstock knockoff sandals are barely holding together on my feet, and they reveal toenail polish that's chipped and grown out from the pedicure I got 3 months ago, and I couldn't even tell you the last time I plucked my eyebrows. I am overcome with shame as I glance around the room. I'm noticing how clean and well-dressed everyone appears. They all seem so serene and put together, while here I am, fumbling with my phone as I put it on Do Not Disturb, hanging my bag on the wall hook and rummaging through the shelves of props to grab a blanket and a meditation cushion to sit on. How pathetic, I think, as I take my seat after what feels like forever. I'll bet everyone was here at least 10 minutes early. I look so stupid. I can't believe I thought this outfit would be acceptable. Oh my God. As I carry on my inner flogging, the meditation teacher smiles warmly and begins to speak again. Welcome to today's sitting practice. In a moment, you'll hear me sound a bell. Once I do, we will begin our meditation by focusing our attention on our breath, she says. As she speaks, I try getting comfortable on my cushion, crossing my legs one way and then the other, leaning forward and then back. And just as I settle into a semi-comfortable position, I notice how my neck is so tense that it feels like my shoulders are touching my ears. The sound of the bell sings through the room and everyone falls silent. Begin by noticing the quality of your breath, the teacher murmurs. I immediately notice that I'm barely breathing at all. How do I even manage to stay alive, I think? I take a deep inhale, feeling my ribs expand on all sides of my body like a giant balloon. Allow the breath to flow in and out of your nostrils, one breath after the other, the teacher instructs. Let yourself feel nourished by the breath, softening the muscles of your jaw and neck with the exhale. Wow, do I always clench my teeth like this, I wonder, as I release the vice grip that is my jaw muscles? As thoughts naturally arise, witness them as if they are clouds in the sky. The teacher continues, pausing mindfully between instructions. Let them be as they are, without judgment. Simply notice and remain curious. Allow insights to arise and dissipate as they will. Just keep breathing, letting the thoughts drift by. As I sit there, my breath begins to soften, and so does my body. My mind begins to conjure images from this morning. Scenes flash upon my inner screen of me frantically leaping from my bed in a dead panic, becoming blinded by rage from that guy in the Dodge, being gripped by the fear of an imagined perpetrator while walking from my car to the building, and feeling overcome by shame as I broke the silence of the room with my late arrival. All day long, I've been assaulted by these formless monsters of panic, rage, fear, and shame, I say to myself. I vaguely hear the teacher repeat the instruction to simply notice and remain curious. I wonder why, I ask internally. Why can't I live a peaceful existence? What do these monsters want from me? Feeling my breath flow in and out, a response to my questions begins to arise from somewhere deep within me. They're trying to keep you safe, the wise inner voice says. Panic knows how important it is to you to be on time. She's worried about you doing the right things and in the right way. She's jumpy because she learned from the outside world that it's never okay to make mistakes. Rage wants nothing more than to protect you from present danger and to address crossed boundaries. She just doesn't know how to be grounded in constructive communication. Instead, she tends to burn bridges and threaten destruction wherever she goes. Fear is worried about danger too, but not in the present moment. She's exceptionally good at imagining potential catastrophes from a theoretical future, just in case. And shame? Shame thinks that everyone is better than you, and she wants you to know it so that you're always on your best behavior and you don't embarrass yourself. I feel my eyes well up with tears. My chest becomes heavy, as if a 200-pound weight has been placed upon it. My heart aches, and a heavy dullness overtakes my entire body. This is grief, I think, as I feel into the sensations within my body. I am feeling grief. I grieve for the ways I have learned to run from these emotions, viewing them as monsters and not as the wise helpers that they are. I realize that there is nothing wrong with me. I'm just a human being with false beliefs running subtly through my mind, telling me that I'm too much this or not enough that. These emotions are simply messengers. They let me know when something is off, and they guide me back to inner and outer harmony. And now, precious grief is here to help me process, integrate, and let all of this go. I fall into complete stillness. No more thoughts. No sensations. Peaceful silence. It could have been minutes or hours that passed, when out of the silence, I hear the sweet singing of the bell. And as you're ready, lift your gaze and open your eyes, I hear the teacher say. Instinctively, I place my left hand over my heart space in the center of my chest. My body feels light, open. My breathing is easeful. Thank you, I whisper to the worrisome child within me. Thank you for keeping me safe. I'm okay. Everything is okay. I've got us. I love you. The end. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so grateful to be on this adventure of curiosity and courage and this deep healing and growth with you. May what you hear in these podcasts be a blessing, not just to you, but to all whom you come in contact with. So until we connect again, take good care of yourselves and have a wonderful rest of your day.